You know what the biggest lie in modern anime is? Season 2 coming soon. You've been there. 3 years deep into a light novel adaptation. The protagonist just unlocked his 15th overpowered ability. The harem has expanded to include a demon lord, a sword, and somehow, a vending machine. And then it ends. Mid-arc. With a title card that says, read the manga. Well, what if I told you there are exactly 10 isekai anime that don't do this to you? 10 shows that actually respect your time enough to have a beginning, middle, and an end. I spent weeks researching this, and let me tell you, if you're the kind of person who hits subscribe on channels that don't waste your time with filler content, you're gonna want to stick around for this one. Maybe even hit that button down below. Just saying. This is the definitive ranking of the top 10 completed isekai anime of all time. And trust me, number 1 is going to shatter everything you thought this genre could be. Let's get started. Coming in at number 10, we have The Familiar of Zero, from 2006 to 2012. We're kicking things off with the OG tsundere isekai romance. Here's the pitch. A magical academy student who can't do magic summons a Japanese teenager as her familiar. And by familiar, I mean personal punching bag with occasional sword privileges. This show is a time capsule from the 2000s, back when romantic chemistry meant a girl physically abusing the protagonist, and everyone just went with it. Yeah, it's aged like milk left out in the sun. But, and this is a big but, it actually finishes. 4 full seasons, a complete story. Saito and Louise's relationship evolves. The political intrigue wraps up, and you get closure. In this economy, that alone is worth something. The catch? The original author passed away before finishing the light novels. The ending we got was pieced together from his notes. So yes, it's complete, but it's also bittersweet in more ways than one. At number 9, we have Angel Beats from 2010. Okay, real talk. Is Angel Beats technically an isekai? You die. You wake up in a different world. That world has rules. You're stuck there. Yeah, it counts. Fight me in the comments. This is the show that traumatized an entire generation in just 13 episodes. It's about teenagers stuck in a high school afterlife, rebelling against a student council president they call Angel, and slowly uncovering their tragic backstories. It goes from slapstick comedy to absolute emotional devastation faster than you can say, my youth romantic comedy is wrong as I expected. The ending? One of the most beautiful, gut-wrenching, and complete conclusions in anime history. You will cry. I cried. Your dog will cry. The downside is the pacing is absolutely unhinged. You've got like 15 characters and 13 episodes, so half the cast is basically expensive background decoration. But hey, at least it ends. Number 8 is InuYasha, which ran from 2000 to 2010. Ah yes, InuYasha. The show that defined after-school anime blocks and gave an entire generation their sexual awakening via a half-demon with dog ears. No judgment, we've all been there. This is a massive feudal fairy tale. 193 episodes across 2 series, a complete adaptation of the manga. Kagome gets pulled into the past, teams up with InuYasha, and they spend a decade hunting down the shards of a magical jewel, while dealing with the most manipulative villain in anime history, Naraku. The love triangle between InuYasha, Kagome, and Kikyo? Chef's kiss. Still iconic. The problem? This show has more filler than a Build-A-Bear workshop. There are entire arcs where nothing happens. Naraku escapes. Again. You find another jewel shard. Again. But when the final act hits, it moves. And it sticks the landing. If you've got the time and patience, this is a completed epic that earns its reputation. At number 7, we have Recreators from 2017. Alright. Let's get weird. What if, and hear me out, instead of you going to a fantasy world, the fantasy world came to you? Recreators is a reverse isekai, where anime, manga, and video game characters start appearing in modern Japan. And they're pissed. Because they just found out their suffering is entertainment, their worlds are fiction, and their gods? Yeah, that's us. The creators. The audience. This show is phenomenal if you love meta-commentary, existential philosophy, and Hiroyuki Sawano going absolutely berserk on the soundtrack. It's also 40% people sitting in rooms talking very dramatically about the theoretical mechanics of narrative causality. If you've ever wanted an anime that's 1 part Avengers, 1 part philosophy lecture, and 1 part love letter to the creative process, this is it. And yes, it ends. Definitively. Beautifully. Just maybe grab a coffee for the exposition episodes. Speaking of creative process, if you're enjoying this list so far, do me a favor and drop a comment telling me which completed anime you think deserves more love. And hey, if you've learned something new or I've saved you from another unfinished light novel adaptation, smash that like button. Helps me keep making stuff like this. Now, let's get into the top 5, because this is where it gets legendary. Number 6 is Magic Knight Rayearth from 1994 to 1995. 3 middle school girls, Tokyo Tower, a flash of light, boom. They're in a fantasy world, chosen to become magic knights, pilot giant robots, and save a princess. Standard stuff, right? Wrong. This is Magic Knight Rayearth, a clamp masterpiece that took the magical girl genre, the mecha genre, and the isekai genre, blended them in a cursed smoothie and said, what if we traumatized everyone? Because halfway through, this show pulls off one of the most legendary plot twists in anime history. It flips the entire Save the Princess narrative on its head and asks, what if the quest itself was the tragedy? I won't spoil it, but if you know, you know. And if you don't, you need to watch this immediately. It's got gorgeous clamp art, RPG-style progression, and giant magical robots. And it ends. Completely. With emotional devastation included, free of charge. At number 5, we have Digimon Adventure, both Season 01 and 02, from 1999 to 2001. Yes, Digimon is on this list. And no, it's not just Pokemon but edgier. It's better. I said what I said. Digimon Adventure is the story of 7 kids who get pulled into a digital world, partner with monsters, and are forced to grow up fast to save both worlds. And this show does not pull its punches. Divorced parents, survivor's guilt, the weight of responsibility, actual grief. This isn't just a monster collector show. This is a coming-of-age masterpiece disguised as a toy commercial. And the ending, the real ending, including the 02 epilogue that shows the kids 25 years in the future, divisive as hell. Some fans still argue about it in forums to this day. But it's an ending. A complete journey from childhood to adulthood. That's more than most anime can say. Plus, Butterfly is still an absolute banger. Number 4 is Sonny Boy from 2021. Okay, deep breath. Sonny Boy is what happens when an anime director looks at the isekai genre and says, what if we made this incomprehensible? A class of students in their school drift into a black void. They gain superpowers. They hop between surreal dimensions. There's a cat that can manifest any object. There's a dog that talks. Nothing makes sense. And it's brilliant. This is an art house existential masterpiece that uses the isekai premise to explore adolescence, mortality, meaning, and the crushing weight of returning to ordinary life. It's beautifully animated, philosophically dense, and deliberately refuses to explain itself. You will either think this is the most profound thing you've ever seen, or you'll be googling Sonny Boy Explained after every episode. No wrong answers. But if you want an isekai that treats you like an adult and trusts you to interpret its symbolism, this is it. And yes, it ends. In the most melancholic, meditative way possible. At number 3, we have The Vision of Escaflowne from 1996. Here it is. The gold standard. The blueprint. The high fantasy isekai epic that every other show wishes it could be. The Vision of Escaflowne. A high school girl gets pulled to a fantasy world where Earth hangs in the sky. There are kingdoms at war, giant steampunk mechs, a love triangle that'll rip your heart out, tarot cards, destiny, free will, and all of it is backed by the greatest anime soundtrack of all time, courtesy of Yoko Kanno. This show is everything. It's a war story, it's a romance, it's a mecha show, it's high fantasy, and it does all of it with maturity and grace. The ending is bittersweet, some fans are still mad about it, but it's right. It's thematically consistent. It chooses truth over fan service. If you've never seen Escaflowne, stop what you're doing and fix that. This is required viewing. Coming in at number 2 is The 12 Kingdoms, from 2002 to 2003. If Escaflowne is the epic, The 12 Kingdoms is the novel. This is a 45-episode masterwork of political fantasy inspired by ancient Chinese mythology, and it features one of the most brutal and earned character arcs in anime history. Yoko Nakajima starts as a people-pleasing, insecure, passive high school girl. She's transported to a harsh, unforgiving world, abandoned, betrayed, and forced to survive. And slowly, painfully, she transforms into a queen. Not because of a prophecy, not because of a magic sword, but because she chooses to bear the weight of leadership. The world building here is unreal. This feels less like a fantasy setting and more like a historical documentary of a place that actually exists. The only catch? It's technically an incomplete adaptation. The novels are still ongoing. But the arc it chooses to tell is so perfectly self-contained, so emotionally satisfying that it earns the number 2 spot. This is the most literary isekai anime ever made. If you want depth, intelligence, and a protagonist who earns her power, this is the peak. And now, number 1. And at number 1 we have Now and Then, Here and There, from 1999 to 2000. This is it. The best completed isekai anime of all time. And it's going to hurt. Now and Then, Here and There is the ultimate deconstruction of the isekai genre. It takes the fantasy of being pulled into another world and turns it into a nightmare. Shu is an optimistic, ordinary boy. He tries to help a mysterious girl, and he gets dragged into a dying desert world ruled by a psychotic dictator. There's no prophecy, no special power, no harem. Just child soldiers, war crimes, torture, and the question: how long can one boy's optimism survive in the face of absolute evil? This show was inspired by the Rwandan genocide. It doesn't shy away from the horrors of war. It doesn't give you an easy power fantasy. It asks, what does it mean to hold on to hope when the world is determined to crush it? This is not entertainment. This is essential viewing. It's brutal. It's devastating. And it's the most important isekai anime ever made. Because it proves that this genre, this silly, escapist, power fantasy genre, can be used to tell stories of profound humanity. It ends, not with triumph, but with survival, and the faint, fragile hope of rebuilding. Now and Then, Here and There is number 1 because it's the bravest, most artistically courageous isekai ever created. And if you only watch one show on this list, make it this one. Just prepare yourself. So there you have it, the top 10 completed isekai anime of all time. If you made it this far, you're clearly the kind of person who appreciates anime that respects your time. So do yourself a favour and check out my top 10 anime collection playlist. I've ranked everything. Shonen, psychological thrillers, romance, you name it. All the same deep dives, all the same energy. Links in the description, or the card up there. You know what to do. Until next time, I'm Top 10 Guy, reminding you, demand better endings. And maybe hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, you know, for closure.